The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tracy Nyer, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC. I'll be your facilitator for today's webinar. For those of you who are not familiar, the Virginia SBDC is the largest and most effective provider of customized counseling and education for small businesses in Virginia. Most of our services are offered locally in 27 locations throughout the Commonwealth. Today's webinar is one of our educational offerings, and it's part of our ongoing webinar series, Google and Beyond, Marketing and Managing on the Web. Today's topic is social media management tools for small business. All of our Google and Beyond webinars are presented by Ray Sidney Smith, a web and mobile strategist, author of Solo Success, Social Media, Local and Web Small Business Marketing Strategy Explained, and president of W3 Consulting. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type those into the question window and Ray will do his best to answer them. Without further ado, here's Ray Sidney Smith.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to the Virginia SBDC for having me here on the webinar series. As Tracy said, today we're going to be talking about social media tools for your business, and just a couple of housekeeping items. As always, if you have questions, now is the time. I have a whole bunch of web pages that are loading in the background, and so if you hear me cut out a little bit in this early stage, I apologize, but just let me know and I can repeat myself. If you need to ask me a question after the webinar is over, feel free to email me. I have my email address on the final slide, but you can, of course, always tweet at me. I am a Twitter fan, maybe fanatic, and so you can do that at W3 Consulting, hashtag it beyond Google. Also follow at Virginia SBDC. They put out the notices for the upcoming webinar series and other resources and events and programs for the Virginia small business community. So feel free to follow them, and that way you can keep on top of the upcoming notices. With that, our agenda for today is that I'm going to talk a little bit about social technologies so that everybody has an understanding of really what we're talking about when we talk about social media and social media tools. There is kind of a difference between the tools that help you be more productive and effective as a business and the actual underlying social technologies. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a background there so that you can think more strategically about social technologies and about social media. Then we're going to go into the various categories based on, as Tracy said at the top, I wrote a book called Solo Success, and in it I talk about the Solo Success strategy, and it's underpinned by social listening, social speaking, and social connecting, and the three fundamental activities of social media, exclusive of monitoring, that is, tracking metrics and so on and so forth. So I wanted to talk a bit about what those tools those categories mean in terms of how you look at tools. And then I'll go into the tools themselves. I'm going to go through a wide variety of tools that I tried to lump together in some order, but some of them were just kind of, miscellaneous categories, but they're really useful to you. So I wanted to show what they might be able to do for you in your business. And then I'll leave some time at the very end for some Q&A. So with that, let's get into some of the social media technologies that we are all experiencing on a daily basis, but you may not know that you're actually dealing with them or using them. I wanted to go over those categories so you have a better understanding of what we're really talking about. First and foremost is actually the bulk of social media that you experience on a daily basis, and or the bulk majority of the social media that you want to use, at least on its surface. It's what I hear most small business owners talk about, which are social networking services. And there's actually two types of social networking services. There are internal social networking services and external social networking services. So most people are part of an external social network, which means that it's a public social network where anyone can actually be a part of it. This would be like Facebook. Even then, Facebook is a little bit exclusive in the sense that it's for 13-year-olds or older. So you have to be older than 13 years of age in order to join the network. Almost anyone in the world can join. But in essence, an external social network means that most people are being involved in the conversation. An internal social network, though, you can think of as more a private group. It's a select group of people. You can have this within an external social network. For example, Facebook, the platform, has groups. Groups are internal social networks because they are exclusive to an interest or a group of people based on age, gender, or other kinds of topics or interests. So the idea here is for you to understand the difference between having anyone join, which is not what you want in your business. You want actually an exclusive set of people, a smaller group subset of those people who are your potential buyers, your customer advocates, your brand advocates, the people who are out there in your target audience who are going to not only buy from you, but also communicate your messages and influence others to buy from you. So those are social networking services. The common groupings of those are Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and so on and so forth. Then we have online communities and forums, and it's actually one of the oldest social technologies. These are the web forums and the email forums that are kind of mixed together. You'll see some that do email only, like Google Groups at one point, but it also has a web forum component with it. And I wanted to show you at least one tool I'm going to show you that does online communities really well. And the reality here, though, is that social networking services and online communities and forums have kind of blended together over the last 20 years, but they are distinct things. The problem is that many times the online community or online forum technology is actually built into now a social networking service. The difference between the two is that social networking services are those people are representing their whatever their interests or life is in a much more one-to-one way, or maybe small groups, whereas online communities tend to be an everyone is in the conversation. So, like on an email discussion board or a web discussion board like Google Groups, everybody who's a part of the group is going to see the conversations in the threads. Whereas in a social networking service, you may have exclusive groups of these internal social networks where only a certain group of people see my posts on Facebook because of privacy settings. I may then expand that to an internal social network like a Facebook group and expand the conversation to those folks. So online communities are more flat organizations where you have more democratic conversation, or what Dr. Danielle Allen calls democratic writing. So then we go to blogs, and blogs are the third largest of the social technologies in the world right now. We tend to think of them as the first, since WordPress and other technologies run so much of the internet today. But blogs are actually third in line, in at least in my research and I guess opinion, in the sense that blogs are a form of speaking, in my terms, that is publishing content in order to draw people to your web presence as a business. And so you have blogs. Blogs are, in essence, an online magazine, an online periodical where you regularly publish. And just like any other periodical, you can publish that on a daily basis like a newspaper does. You can publish it on a weekly basis and monthly basis, quarterly or otherwise. It just depends on your audience and how much traffic you need to generate and how much visibility you need to generate in order to increase sales. We then have messaging. A lot of people don't think of messaging, and I'm going to show you some of the tools that you can use for messaging, but messaging is really important today. Messaging apps constitute a huge majority of, percentage-wise, of the social conversations that are happening in the world. Most people are having conversations with either one person, one-to-one communications, or very small group communications in these messaging apps. And some of these messaging apps, like WeChat in China, is developing applications within their messaging apps that are basically facilitating the ability for people to do functions that they would otherwise do in completely whole apps. So instead of having a Venmo, which is for peer-to-peer money exchange, like splitting rent or splitting a meal at dinner or whatnot, instead of using Venmo, they're using WeChat to do all of that within one ecosystem. So it's really disrupting the social technology space, and we need to think about how we as small business owners are engaging clients in a one-to-one chat environment. Next is media sharing. Media sharing is social in its nature because it allows anyone to upload content to the internet and then have a conversation around it. So you can think of a podcast as being just the audio that comes like an online radio show, if you want to think about it that way. But in reality, the podcast is really about the conversation between me, the publisher of the podcast, and my audience, and what kind of feedback they're giving me. And they may give that feedback in a number of different ways, but primarily it's through comments on the podcast website, which is in essence just a blog. So think about the podcast as a blog with audio attached to it. Well, the same functions apply. I want to incite conversation via the audio, but in essence, I want the conversation then to thrive on the podcast episode for that, in essence, blog post, and get people talking about it. Video, think YouTube, people commenting on YouTube videos. Photos, think Flickr, and how people have conversations around photographs on Flickr, or posting photographs on Facebook or Instagram or any other of the primary photo sharing platforms today, where the conversations are engagement for your business, so that you can engage your target audience in and around the visual storytelling that you're doing on behalf of your brand. Okay, just a couple others. Wikis. A lot of people don't think about wikis, but wikis are very, very powerful tools. If you think about Wikipedia and what Wikipedia means to the world today, most people think about encyclopedias as Wikipedia. Once upon a time there was the published version of the Encyclopedia Britannica. No more. We now just have Wikipedia. It's kind of crazy to me, but it is what it is, right? But the underlying technology is actually something you can use for a knowledge base for your company, an FAQ page for your company, manuals where if you have a product or a service where there needs to be some education for your clients about how to use that tool on an ongoing basis. If you develop software, if you develop an application where people need to know how to use it, wikis are a fantastic way to document information. And MediaWiki, which is the free open source software that Wikipedia runs on top of, is freely available for you to install on your own website and use as a wiki. There are many other wikis out there, but just keep that in mind as it relates to it, because a wiki allows not just you to contribute to the document or the manual, what have you, but you can then engage your audience in keeping that document both up to date, kicking the tires, so to speak, to make sure that things are staying up to date, or if they're coming out of date, they can ask the right questions so that you can then go ahead and update it. But wikis are a powerful social technology if you use it correctly. We then have online courses. Online courses are not new. They're actually decades old. But today the technology has gotten so much more powerful that we're capable of creating these e-courses that allow your target audience to, for free or for fee, come into a platform and learn from you, and then socialize with others who are interested in what they're learning from you. That's a repeat. And then we have media cataloging, sites that are much more specific to a type of media. Goodreads, for example, covers books, and basically you could put your library of books, both ebooks and physical books, onto this platform. It's owned by Amazon, so it makes it very easy for you to track all of your books in the platform and have a conversation around it. IMB is about movies and other kinds of film. So you have these, these very media-specific cataloging tools. And then finally, we have Q&A. A lot of people don't realize this, but if you are subject matter expert in your field, think of it as whatever business you're in, you probably have a level of expertise that an average person off the street does not have. So how do you increase your exposure on the internet by answering people's questions about those topics? And sites like Quora, Yahoo Answers used to be the kind of dominant force there, but there have been many sites like this. Quora is the most powerful one today, but it's a social site where you can answer people's questions, and they ask either very mundane questions or very specific questions, like how, I get questions all the time on Quora about very specific things about how WordPress operates and what tools would be best to integrate with WordPress. And I can answer those questions, so I do. And that ultimately generates traffic to my website because people know to, check me out if they need my help in whatever, category. So Quora is one of those social technologies that's come aboard. Okay, so those are the types of social technologies you want to be on the lookout as you start to think about certainly 2019 and beyond and your social media strategy. Which of these tools are useful to you as you start to brainstorm what you want to do in terms of your web presence? Really start to think about how is it that you want to listen, speak, and connect with your target audience, and which of those technologies really fits the way in which you communicate out to the world. And that brings us to the social media tools categories. And again, like I said, in Solomo Success, I talk about the idea of those three categories. Listening, speaking, and connecting connects to the three fundamental reasons why people group. That is, why people come together. People come together to give, to get, and feel a sense of belonging. And when we want to give, get, and feel a sense of belonging on the internet, we have three ways in which we can do that as consumers, as individuals. That is listening, and listening is the act of searching out conversations and contributing to that conversation. So I might follow some Facebook pages for businesses that I might like and organizations, and I might join some Facebook groups, and I will engage in that conversation. The act of listening is giving because I am adding content to somebody else's space. It's like joining in a conversation. I'm contributing to the conversation. You're giving at that point. When we talk about speaking is the idea of getting, is receiving, because when we speak, we are actually putting content out there on the out there in the space, and we are, as I said before, inciting conversation. We are putting little nuggets out there to get people, not inciting riots, but inciting conversation. We want to get people to start talking. So we're going to ask more questions than we make statements. We're going to engage people in the beginnings of conversations so that they get interested in wanting to engage with us. So we use speaking then as a mechanism for getting traffic, right? The more you blog, which is a form of speaking, the more you podcast, the more you put videos onto YouTube, the more traffic you get. And finally is the idea of connecting. You are as strong as your weakest link, as they say. And so connecting is the idea of not only working with each individual, connecting with the individuals who are your influencers, who are your brand advocates, your biggest advocates generally, but it's also the idea of connecting others to one another who might be beneficial to each other. So if you happen to be a local realtor, you might connect a local title company with a local real estate lawyer or title processor, title escrow person, or what have you, home inspector, surveyor, you name the mortgage company. You connect all of those people, and now you have this very much stronger network by virtue of connecting the dots. It's like kind of a spider's web. You start to connect all these pieces, and making the each of those pieces of the web stronger is going to make you stronger in terms of the business, and ultimately you have this very nice diaspora of people out there who are talking about your business and therefore driving traffic back. So within each of these, when we talk about listening, we are really talking about monitoring, brand awareness, market research, and reputation management. And I could spend an entire webinar on each of these topics, so I won't. But the idea here is that you want to have some level of monitoring. I'll show you some tools that do that today. Brand awareness, again, it's about making sure you're searching for the right things. Market research, what's happening? How are you innovating in the company? Most often than not, that's by engaging with your audience through listening. You want to be asking the right questions. You want to be engaging with them in the right spaces. Where are they communicating? Where are they grouping? Not on that when they're not grouping on your Facebook page or on your Twitter profile, where are they having their best time, and go there to find out what you can do to make them listen to you more. And reputation management, when this is not only developing a brand but also managing it when someone says something perhaps unworthy of your brand, or crisis management when things do happen and you need to make sure that you're making course correction. Speaking is about lead generation, making sure that people are coming to your website, engaging with your website, and ultimately buying from your website. Audience engagement, and again, a little bit of market research. And finally, connecting. This is audience engagement. This is penultimately sales, and then ultimately customer service. So this is really about service after the sale. So we want to be making sales, right? We have to have top line revenues, but we want to really make sure that we're staying profitable, and that comes from engaging appropriately in social media through great customer service. We see this with some companies who are doing a phenomenal job on Twitter and other social media by being responsive to people when they have customer service complaints. And we're seeing others who are doing it very, very poorly, where people will tweet at the company and you'll never hear a response. And that's stuff that sits out there and is going to really affect your long-term reputation, because if you're not providing that customer service, then people are aware and they're communicating that to their friends and family and colleagues and so on and so forth in a very public way today. Okay, so with that, I'm going to take us out. And I'm going to walk us through a variety of different hold on one second, enter full screen. I'm going to walk us through a variety of different tools that I think will be useful to you in the whole panoply of these tools. So hold on one second while I get my keyboard shortcuts straight here, and by all means, I'm gonna kind of rush through these because of time. So if you have any specific questions, by all means, poke in, ask Tracy, and I'll be happy to answer them. I'm going to start off with the Google Marketing Platform. As you all may or may not know, I'm the Google Small Business Advisor for Productivity, so I obviously think that Google has something to offer small businesses in a wide range of spaces, and we'll talk about a couple of those Google tools today. The first one, of course, is Google Analytics. Google Marketing Platform actually brings together about 5 or 6 different tools. 5 of them are on screen right now. The first of those tools is Google Analytics. We've done a full webinar, if not several webinars on them, so I suggest you go over to the resources section on the Virginia SBDC website, and there in the archives, you'll find the webinar on Google Analytics. But in essence, if you want to do any level of listening and understanding the measuring part, right? So listening, speaking, connecting, measuring really requires you to go ahead and be tracking the conversations, and Google Analytics allows you to track against social, email, e-commerce, normal web traffic, you name it. If it can be tracked, it can likely be tracked using Google Analytics. So get into the tool and really learn how to use it well, because if you're doing all of this work and you're not getting business data given back to you, then you can't make good business decisions today. Let me repeat that. If you are not tracking good data, you cannot make good business decisions today. The idea of making intuitive decisions is unfortunately very faulty, and a lot of small businesses ultimately fail because they are not getting the data they need. And it's not because the data isn't out there; it's because you're not capturing it and you're not reviewing it often enough. So go out there and get these tools done. Implement it on your website. Implement them across your social media, so that you're capable of getting the right data back to you. And even little bits of data, you need some representative sample that's going to be statistically significant. There's enough of a base data there, but there are other ways in which you can get data that will still ultimately feed you good information to make good business decisions. Then Google gives you a whole bunch of other tools. Data Studio, which is a visualization tool for making beautiful reports from. You can pull in your Google Analytics data. You can pull in tools from your email marketing software. You can pull in raw Excel data and throw that in there also, and visualize that data so that you can get a better understanding of the data. So really, really cool tool there. Google Optimize, it's the second box on the bottom from the left. It allows you to do what's traditionally called A/B testing. It allows you to go in and set up variations of your website. You probably need your web designer and web developer to help you with this usually. And you can test which parts, do green buttons or red buttons make people more, facilitate more purchases? Does a particular language on your website, when you write your website in the first person as opposed to the third person, does that change how people interact and engage with your website to stay on the website longer? Does video keep people on your site longer than audio or just text? You could do all those things with Google Optimize by testing and showing different sets of your website to different visitors. Google Surveys is a great tool for being able to do market research. And so for a small fee, you can go out there and have Google ask real life people questions, and those questions then get fed back to you so that you can get people's opinions about things. And then Google Tag Manager. And in essence, if you're doing a heavy amount of social media and a heavy amount of web traffic generation, then you should really get comfortable with Tag Manager. It allows you to be able to handle sourcing so that you can understand where people are coming from. So if you're sending out a lot of individual unique links, then the Tag Manager allows you to go ahead and kind of slice and dice your data a little bit better. So that's the Google Marketing Platform in a nutshell. So really look at the Google Marketing Platform as its own beast in terms of social media. You really want to get a handle on Google Analytics before you go into the others, but it's just a great tool for being able to understand this. Oh, I also wanted to make note that I will put together a list of all of these so that you have them. So I will be happy to send that along to Tracy, because I'm going to go through a lot of these and there'll be funky URLs and so forth. So I will give that over to Tracy and she can get that over to you if you need it. Okay, next up is this is the Google Keyword Search tool, and this is actually on, let's see here. It's on SEO Chat. Okay, so this is on SEOchat.com, and it's just one of the free tools that they provide. And what it does here is it gives you the ability to do a Google keyword search, but it gives you the ability to run blocks of terms so that you can better understand what you're going out there and doing. So as you start out in social media, and you're trying to decide on what tools you might need and what your strategy is going to be, you really need to know what words you want people to be searching on the internet to find you. What are they searching on the World Wide Web to find you? That could be in social media, that could be on Google, but all told, you want to have some idea of what people are searching for in order to be able to find you. So if you're a local dentist, or if you're a local yoga studio, or if you have a new product that you're developing, you want to be able to type those search queries into here. And what this Google Keyword Search Suggest tool will do is it will show you a whole variety of keywords and key phrases that people are searching in relation to that particular term. So you might type in your industry, you might type in your specific product, you might type in your brand, or the related category of your brand, so that people can understand, so that you can better understand what words you want to be using in your social media posts that people are searching for that will bring them to you. So that's at tools.seochat.com. Next up is good old-fashioned Google Alerts. And like with any other social listening, you really do need to be paying attention for reputation management purposes, for brand awareness purposes, and just generally, knowing what people are saying about you. For vanity reasons. You want to be able to keep some Google alerts that should be your name, your company name, your key employees, key industry terms, maybe the your industry plus your locality. So you might say Ray Sidney Smith, Arlington, Virginia, or technology company, Arlington, Virginia, just to see what people are saying about your business and other things. Google Alerts actually also gives you this handy tool to be able to add things. So if you want to keep on track of Google, you could just click the plus sign and voila, it adds a little Google alert for you. You have the choice of actually doing this as an RSS feed or as an email. So it'll email you every time something new comes up when your name comes up. So you can say, oh, okay, whenever anyone puts my name in, then we can go ahead and do that, right? So you can see here, someone recently wrote about me for a cybersecurity seminar that I gave. So voila, it shows my name in it. So there goes the article, and I can click on it and I can read it and see whether or not that was good press, bad press, or otherwise. But you can see what people are saying about you, and that could be very, very helpful, right? So that you can know how to take advantage of the right press. That might be something that you want to go out there and decide to share on social media, or not. Or maybe you need to reach out to that person and say, really didn't like what you said about me. Could you do something different? Okay, next up is actually a series of tools that I wanted to talk about as it relates to when you launch a website and you decide to engage in social media. A lot of businesses don't realize that in order to engage in social media, you have to actually get people off of social media and then sell them something. I know this might seem basic, but understand that your website needs to be able to convert people to sales, not necessarily social media. You need to take people from being in a social environment to being in a sales mindset. And that's not as easy as it sounds for some businesses, especially service-based businesses where that translation doesn't really work all the time. So what you really need to think about is, how are you creating both a customer service and sales mindset that helps facilitate both sales and good customer experiences? One of those tools that actually W3 Consulting, we're implementing on our own site in 2019. We've been testing it in the background, but is this customer service platform called Freshdesk, and so Freshdesk is a part of the Freshworks platform. They actually have a whole bunch of products. They have a online chat tool, and they have a call center tool, and all kinds of other things. But either way, I'm really talking about Freshdesk here, because what they do is they actually can help you monitor. Let me see here. Here it is. They help you monitor both email, phone, online web chat, but social media. So it can actually integrate with your Facebook page and Twitter, and that way it's monitoring for conversations that are of a customer service nature, and then you can reply to them and engage with them directly from your website, from the Freshdesk app. There's actually an app on the phone, which is really important to me, because I need to be able to respond to people who come to the website and submit a support ticket or whatever from my phone, and so do my staff. So this tool is really, really powerful for being able to do that. There are a couple of social CRMs that are out there. I know Batchbook and Nimble CRM are two both are CRMs, but they allow integration with social media so that you're able to handle those customer service issues, but also potential sales. So we really want to cover both sides of that, right? The Nimble CRM and Batchbook are handling the pre-sales to sales side, and then Freshdesk here can handle the customer service side, or you can use one of them for both, but kind of give that some thought. So I always like to talk about cybersecurity in everywhere I go, and so I decided to talk about 3 different tools that all do the same function, but some people just like one of them better. But as you create social media profiles, you are going to need to keep track of all of the usernames and passwords. So for social brand protection purposes, I recommend that you go out there and you secure your brand name and potentially even your personal name across all of the major social networks, right? So you want to capture your Twitter profile and Facebook, username, and Pinterest and Instagram, and so on and so forth, right? You just want to have those because you don't want other people to use them, primarily because the internet is kind of like the wild, wild west. Anyone can take those names, and you don't want them to use it for ill purposes. So when you take them, that does not mean that you need to use them, right? I want you to choose one social technology, one social platform where you really become fantastic at it before you look at the others. And so that's what I want you to do. I want you to focus on being successful on a single platform. But you want to have all of the other platforms available to you if you should see the cheese move, right? And the cheese, of course, here is your target audience. But if you see your target audience all go to Instagram and you've been really rock starring on Facebook, well, you need to change. And that means that when you make the change, you don't want to have to find out that somebody else already has your Twitter profile of choice, and you didn't even know what your second choice was or your third choice because you hadn't given it any consideration. It's not set up. It doesn't look like your brand, and you can't respond and be adaptive as quickly. So go out there and capture all the social media profiles that you would or could use in the future that are going to represent your brand best, considering the options that are out there. And then you need to capture them somewhere. And I'm going to recommend that you capture them into a tool like LastPass. LastPass is a password manager, but it helps you do a whole bunch of other things. I mean, you can secure all kinds of other important data. There's a free version, and then there's premium and enterprise versions. So I recommend you start out with the free version and start getting all of your usernames and passwords into it. It's a secure environment so that you're able to have access to it. You're going to install a browser plugin, an app on your mobile phone, a desktop application, and then through this one password, right? LastPass is called LastPass because it has the last password you'll ever need to remember. Then one password, which is another tool I'll show you momentarily, is you just have this one password and then it remembers all the other usernames and passwords so you don't have to. So as you register all those social media profiles, get them into LastPass, and then you don't have to worry about remembering them anymore. And you can make unique long passwords that you couldn't guess or know, but LastPass will just remember them for you. Okay, so LastPass is one option. There is also Dashlane. A lot of people like Dashlane, especially if you're on the iOS Apple ecosystem. A lot of people like Dashlane for that purpose. And so they all come with different features and different plans, but for the most part, they all do the same kind of thing. And now with the latest version of Android and the latest version of iOS, the password management function is really quite seamless. It just gives you the option to be able to, when you go to a password inside of an app, for example, it'll just pop up the username and password for that app and let you press the button, and then it fills it in for you. And it allows you to share these passwords by the account level. So you can say, I want to share my username and password for Facebook with an employee, and it's not actually giving them the username and password. It's facilitated through LastPass, through Dashlane, or through 1Password. So you're not actually giving them the credentials. They're just capable of logging in on your behalf. So it gives you that additional level of security. So this is 1Password, and they're made by a company called AgileBits, and they're a very, very popular platform. They have tools for all of the platforms. I think Apple, iOS, Windows, and Android now. I may be wrong on that. Let's see here. Downloads. I think they have an Android app now. They used to be only iOS, but they have branched out. Let's see. They have all the browsers, right? Chrome, Firefox, Opera, and Safari. And they have, let's see. I don't see a Windows version. I believe they have a Windows version now, though. Somebody can look it up and let me know. But anyway, 1Password for those who are certainly oh no, here it is. Yeah, Mac, iOS, Windows, Android, Linux, Chrome OS, and even command line. So if you're running some command line, you can play with it from there. Anyway, so 1Password is also a popular option. I use LastPass and I love it. So. Okay, next up is creating your own social platform. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. As I said before, there are social networking services that are external social networking services and internal social networking services. And since Facebook has been getting quite a bit of flack recently, they were just lambasted by the Europeans for a lot of their failings. They're still a juggernaut in the social networking space, and the largest social network, and they satisfy a huge amount of social traffic that people are engaging with on the platform every day. But for small businesses, you may not need Facebook I'm not saying that you do or don't. I'm just saying that if you decide that you wanted to create your own, um, you know, social networking service and an online community, you can do that. If you have WordPress, BuddyPress actually allows you to do that with a single plugin. It is phenomenal, and it allows you to just turn on the plugin, and then you are capable of creating profiles and further internal groups. You can create your own groups within the tool, and you can do private messaging on the site and really facilitate an online community of the people who are either your potential customers. You can create an affinity group, people who are your biggest brand advocates, influencers. You can use an online community on your website, which now, by driving people directly to your website to engage and interact, now they're no longer having to go to Facebook and through Facebook come to your website. They're already there. So the opportunity to sell to them is that much closer because it's already resident. It's like having your blog on your website as opposed to on a different platform. By having the online community tied directly into your website, you now have the ability to engage with them and sell to them in a closer perspective. It closes that social to sales gap. So check out BuddyPress if you have a WordPress website and you're thinking about it. Now, the next two are online communities or social networking services. Again, those two tend to blend together today, but it gives you the ability to have public and private conversations and public and private spheres of influence. This tool actually is fairly new, but it's from what I've seen pretty cool. It comes with a very interesting, unique set of features. So what Mighty Networks does is it gives you a platform which can take over your website. It can just become your website. And it allows you to create a community where everybody is together, and then you are able to have native mobile applications, posting. You can blog on the platform. You can create smaller groups, but then you can actually charge people. It could be free for some period of time, but then you can charge people for becoming a part of the community. So if you're trying to monetize your community, you actually have the ability to do that here on Mighty Networks. So you can bring your content together, you can have live chats, you can have events, and you can actually teach courses. So you can have online courses here. So in essence, it's kind of like Facebook in a box. You can create a new community, you can have a podcast, you can launch new products. It's actually very, very flexible. And it's a very interesting platform. I'm looking forward to seeing how they grow over time. And you can fully brand it to look like your own with some of the paid versions. There is a free version you can use. Just create a Mighty Network and start playing around with it. I really recommend you click on Find a Network and look at some of how some of these other open free networks work and whether or not they would be useful to you. Okay, so Mighty Networks is one option, and I just feel like the whole brand and the feel of it is just really, really sleek. I don't know where they're going to go, but I feel like they at least right now have a good handle on the aesthetics. Next up is the kind of the granddaddy of social networks. If you want to create your own social network, Ning is out there. They have a new monetization strategy, mostly to compete with the Mighty Networks and the way in which they have so seamlessly integrated payment and other functionality. But Ning allows you to create a social network, and you can put your own domain on it, so it can be community.yourbusinessname.com, and you can also monetize. So you can sell membership, you can sell products, you can sell tickets to events and that kind of thing on the platform. Next up is, as I said before, an online community or forum is traditionally more democratic in terms of conversation. So anyone can have conversations with anyone in this open forum status. Well, Discourse is the latest evolution in that. So I think they're at discourse.org, or just if you just type in Discourse online community, you'll find it. But the idea here is that Discourse allows you to have an online discussion platform that is very modern. There are mobile applications for each of these. You can self-host it on your website. The pricing for hosting it through the Discourse platform is probably outside the reach of most small businesses. I think they start at $100 per month for hosting. So it's not the kind of thing that you want to pay them for hosting. But if you get a web developer shouldn't take very much time or money for them to install Discourse on your website. You then now have this very, very strong platform for maybe you set up an FAQ, maybe you set up a knowledge base on your site, or just handling customer service all in an open platform so that if people have questions about your product, people are answering them. As a community, you are also answering them, but other people can jump in and say, "Oh, well, you know what? When I go to this pastry shop, they offer this, but you can actually modify it for that, and you can, or if you're a cafe, people can talk about their orders and how they may modify them. You can have a lot of fun with it and engage people in the online community with the right incentives. So Discourse. This is another tool called Website Toolbox, and they also allow you to create just a very, very easy website forum on your own website. So you just go in, you customize it, you set up the functionality, and then you paste a little bit of code on your website, and voila, you have a website forum. So if you're thinking about doing a website forum and Discourse is a little too technical for you, Website Toolbox makes it very, very easy for you to create the social structure on your website without very much work. Next up is actually Blogger. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Google's Blogger. A lot of people don't think about Blogger anymore, but it was one of the first self-platforms for blogging. I mean, beyond LiveJournal and some of the older platforms like Typepad and so on and so forth. Blogger is still alive and well. You can launch a blog, especially if you're a G Suite customer, directly from within G Suite. So you can launch one blog or as many blogs as you need to from within the Blogger platform, and it's tied obviously to the Google ecosystem. So it's going to be good for you, not because Google's going to give it necessarily preferential treatment, but it's going to be immediately accessible and indexed and all of those things by virtue of being within the Blogger ecosystem. So if you're thinking about launching a blog and you already have a G Suite account, you have a Google Sites website, and you just want a simple way to add blogging to your website, this is a great way to do it. So Blogger. And then next up is, I'm not sure why this isn't closing. Maybe that's why it's not closing. There we go. Next up is WordPress. As many of you know, I am a huge WordPress fan, and so WordPress is a great tool for being able to host a blog. It can host your entire website. That is, not host your website. It can run your entire website, and but you can launch a blog, and you can even create an app with WordPress today with all the tools and technology. It runs a third of the internet. It runs a third of the World Wide Web. And the World Wide Web and the internet are different, but it runs a third of the World Wide Web in terms of being the software that most people use. So it has a wide variety of people who support WordPress, who are available to help you. And so if you have any questions about WordPress, by all means, come my way. All right. This is Medium. And so Medium actually is a product of one of the co-founders of Twitter. He left, not left, yeah, I guess he left, and started this website platform that allows for blogging. I bring it up because Medium is not the place you want to be blogging. This is an example of a platform that you should not go to, and the reasons are fairly simple. Note that up here, you can see this tool that says upgrade. Medium is in the job of monetizing content similar to the way in which Facebook is designed to sell ads. All they're trying to do is increase people's use of the platform so that the more and the better the content, which Medium does have really great content, the more they force people, users like myself, to then pay to have access to your content. So the more content and the more people that use a platform like Medium, the more Medium will start to segregate away free content from users, meaning that very similar to Facebook's and its algorithm, where not many people see the posts you post from your page because they reduce it because they want you to boost your posts. They want you to pay for promoted posts. They want you to pay for ads. And Medium is kind of doing the same thing with blog posts. And I think fundamentally, from a values perspective and a professional perspective, I disagree with that notion. And ultimately, that means that you won't get as many of your blog posts seen by people on Medium because that's their whole business model. So don't use that. And so this is a tool called Feedly, and I've talked about Feedly before, but Feedly is a great tool for being able to get all of your, if you are going to invest in blogging, you want to also be looking at other people's blogs and kind of getting to know the community and tracking all that social conversation. You can do that in a tool like Feedly. So you actually subscribe to all the blogs you want to read, and it just shows up in one application. So you can, there's a desktop application, and then there's a mobile application, so you can actually keep on top of them. I use Feedly every day, and I absolutely love it. Okay, I've got to go a little faster for time purposes. I know we started a little bit late, so so Tracy will just have to, yank the cord when when we hit time. But Tracy, do let me know when we reach time, and I will try to cut off. Okay, so a couple new things. SlideShare is a place for you to be able to put up content. In this case, presentations and documents and so on and so forth. This and the next tool I'm going to show you is a place where you can actually create lead magnets. And lead magnets are something that you give away for free in order to be able to get people to come to your website and give up a little bit of information about you, about themselves to you. And so SlideShare allows you to be able to create these kinds of slides. And in essence, you could just put it behind a little email sign-up form or what have you, and then give people access to these embedded documents. So give that some thought in terms of what you might be able to offer people in terms of informational tools that you can then get them to give up their email contact information in order to be able to engage with you. But you could also just give this away on SlideShare as a way of engaging people in conversations about you and your business and your product, and it can act as a customer service tool, as an FAQ tool, as a way to generate leads to your website as well. So there's SlideShare. Then there's Scribed. Scribed is very similar to SlideShare in that sense. You can upload documents, and they allow you to upload audiobooks and magazines and podcasts and all kinds of things to this platform. And you have varying levels of being able to index or non-index it, so that you can actually hide these things behind some kind of sign-up form or publish it to the world and have Google index it and bring people to you through the content that you're generating. Oh, okay. So this tool is called Proof, and you get to it by going to useproof, proof.com. And so Proof is actually a really, really cool tool. So what's happening here is, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen right now, you see this little pop-up window that just said that, so-and-so from England just signed up for a free trial. And you see another one, Allison from New Boston, Texas, just signed up for another trial. What this does is you can actually implement this on your blog or on your podcast or otherwise on the website itself. So when someone comes to visit a specific page on your website or your entire website, and you sell a product or service that they can buy on your website, which I highly recommend that people be able to do. Now, when people sign up for that stuff, it's actually showing a little bit of information to the person before they purchase. So now I can see social proofing that, other people are buying this product, other people are checking out this website and signing up for free trials. Maybe I should too. It does it in a very, very seamless, easy way, and it gives you, the business owner, this really powerful tool for being able to express that people are also using the tool. And so social proof is a very, very powerful sales tool, and you can actually implement this on your social stuff, like your blog or podcast website, so that people can see that social proof around your social content, and therefore hopefully be converted to sales. Okay, there are a whole host of messaging apps. As I said before, messaging is the next frontier. Messaging and chatbots are really the next frontier in social media and social technologies. And there are a couple of them that I wanted to talk about just very, very quickly. The first up is Telegram. It's free open source software, and it has an option on all of the platforms from iOS and Android to desktop applications and a web browser version and everything else. And it's just really, really fantastic. And so you can create not only one-to-one chat, but you can create groups, which are more exclusive, right? You can have a smaller internal social network, or you can have channels which are public, and people can just all engage in a public conversation around a topic like your business product, service, industry, or otherwise. So Telegram is a really powerful tool. WhatsApp, which is owned by Facebook, so be warned and be wary. Just like Facebook, Instagram, they're Facebook-owned properties. WhatsApp is also owned by Facebook, but it's also a very, very popular platform with some burgeoning tools. They've added something akin to Instagram stories to the WhatsApp platform. So they're innovating in that way, and you will see more and more of the Snapchat and other types of tools. Facebook Messenger, I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. And Viber and Line, Google Hangouts is still around, Google Allo, which is the latest iteration of Google Hangouts, and it's been a complete rewrite. I talked about WeChat in China already, and I think that's it. Oh, Signal for secret messages, if you want to send high-level, highly encrypted tools. There's Snapchat, but I don't really see Snapchat taking hold in the world the same way that Instagram kind of took over Facebook. We probably won't see that. I'm bringing this one up. This one's called Wire, and Wire is a secure, it's supposed to be very, very secure, like Signal, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful application. And so you can use it for free, and it's just this really, really beautiful application. Nobody uses it. So you can use this within the business for all kinds of things. Or you can use it for client communications as a customer service tool from social media. You can let people know that if they want to contact you, they can use Wire to do so. If you're in a highly secure environment, that is, you need to have private conversations that are going to stay private. And so this is one of those tools that I think is really powerful. It allows for guest communications and all kinds of stuff, but it's end-to-end encryption, and they have apps for you to be able to install. And it's just, as I said, it's just a beautiful application. And I wish that everybody, not everybody, but more people used it, because it is not as popular as the other tools that are out there. But it's actually a really phenomenal platform. If you're looking to implement online chat on your website, there are a couple of tools that you can use. The first one is the one that we actually use at W3 Consulting, called Olark. And Olark allows you to be able to implement just a little chat functionality. Click on the chat button, and it pops up a little chat tool on your site. You can ask for information or not, but then it allows you to engage with it. And then you have an app on your mobile phone, or just use the web app, and then voila, you can chat with people directly from your website. Okay, very, very quickly, Facebook allows you to be able to implement a chat functionality using the Facebook Messenger, which is the chat platform that they own separately from WhatsApp. And so you probably have Facebook chatted before if you have a Facebook account. Well, Facebook Messenger platform, if you just go to your Facebook page, go to Settings, then go to Messenger platform, you can actually go in and set up the customer chat plugin on your own website. So you can go in here and set up a chat plugin. You can just go ahead in and now implement that directly on your website. It takes just a couple of minutes, and you're able to then go ahead and have people, if they have a Facebook account, they're automatically logged in, and they can just click on the chat button and immediately start chatting with you through Facebook. So if you're really, really thinking about setting up a website chat, and a lot of your people are on Facebook, which they probably are, then Facebook Messenger is a powerful tool. Facebook also has the Messenger chat button. So it looks like this, where you can have this embedded anywhere on your website, so that maybe it's not the pop-up that shows up and displays on your website, but just a button in particular places. Maybe you have it inside of a widget or someplace, and you want to be able to have people message you. You can go ahead and do that using the Message Us plugin. All right, so I've got a little bit of time left, so I'm going to cut out some of these things. If you're interested in podcasting and podcasting tools, by all means, reach out to me and I can talk about those. But I would be remiss to not talk about HootSuite. HootSuite is the social media management platform. I'm a HootSuite global brand ambassador, so I'm a volunteer who just happens to really love HootSuite, but HootSuite allows you to be able to do a wide variety of things, and that includes being able to schedule social media posts. It allows you to schedule and post photos and videos to Instagram and to many other platforms, and it just gives you a wide range of power. It can seem a little clunky at times, but by by far, I found it to be the most feature-rich tool. It allows you to take your blog RSS feed and syndicate that to social media platforms, schedule, reschedule, and monitor conversations that are happening about your business on social media like no other tool that I have found out there, because it integrates with so many other tools just seamlessly. So Hootsuite is available to you, so check it out. For those of you who are very Instagram specific, since a lot of people have moved to Instagram, there is Planoly. Planoly is actually a really beautiful tool that allows you to, schedule on Instagram and manage Instagram. So you might look at Planoly for purposes of checking out what they have to offer. And then I want to hop over to just these last two, if Tracy will let me. But a lot of times on social media, you want to be able to engage people in moving people from social to sales, right? I talked about the social to sales gap, and these tools allow you to do that. So Woobox is a tool that allows you to create marketing campaigns, but specifically contests and giveaways on social media. So you can actually have people say, oh, well, if you share my Twitter post, then you get one entry into my giveaway, or if you share my post to Facebook or make a comment on my Facebook post here, then you'll get another entry. And so you can actually do it very, very seamlessly with these tools. They help you set it all up. Obviously, you have to, abide by state and local, federal, state, and local laws regarding giveaways and all that other fun stuff. But Woobox makes it very easy. Gleam.io also allows you to be able to do that. And their tool, I think, is the most beautiful of all of them. So you have these ways to be able to just click. So comment on an article, follow us, watch a video on YouTube. You have all kinds of interaction capabilities, and you just embed the tool directly on your website, and then it becomes available to you. And you can see here the live implementation of it. You could just go ahead and say, oh, you know what, I want to be able to have people submit selfies, and the people who submit the most unique selfie gets a free cup of coffee at my cafe. Voila, Gleam gives you the ability to do so. If you have not heard about this before, Canva is the online, it has online and app on Android and iOS, and it allows you to do free graphic design work for social media. So just super, super powerful tool. Absolutely look at Canva. But they actually have a design school. If you go to designschool.canva.com, it'll take you here, and it actually walks you through how to actually use Canva to create great designs. And most small business owners are not graphic designers, and they don't have an eye for design. And this helps you do it. It has actual live interactive tutorials. Super, super great tool. I highly recommend that even if you don't use Canva, that you go through these so that you have a better idea about how to create better Instagram posts, better posts generally. Okay, so I'm going to leave us there. I'm actually going to give Tracy the list of the other tools that I didn't get a chance to talk about, and I will be happy to answer any questions folks have, and we'll go from there.
All right, thanks, Ray. I'm going to go ahead and close out for those people that do want to get on. I know we started late, and Ray did a great job. If we'd started on time, you were only 3 minutes over. So let me close it out, and then we do have quite a few questions lined up, so I will get on with those afterwards. Thank you all for participating today. Today's webinar was recorded and will be posted on the Virginia SBDC website under live webinars and recordings. Tomorrow you'll be receiving a follow-up email on the webinar, and there'll be an evaluation link in that email. If you feel like filling that out now, I have just posted that in the chat window. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the questions. What was the wiki platform called that you talked about?
Oh, MediaWiki. MediaWiki is the open source software that runs Wikipedia.
Okay. I've heard that Google Analytics is under pressure by governments around the world to shut down a lot of its services due to the privacy concerns, GDPR, etc. Can you speak to that?
Yes, don't worry about it. That's it. Don't worry about it. Google Analytics and the Google Analytics team are working thoughtfully here in the United States. We have 3 states now with privacy laws. None of them are in opposition to Google Analytics functionality. What will happen is that just like all of the tools, they will ultimately give users stronger privacy controls, the fundamental rights under GDPR, and so it's not something to be concerned about. Google Analytics will adapt to the requirements, and we'll all move on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Tracy. So also on that point, in 2019, the U.S. House of Representatives is putting up a potential bill that will be very similar to GDPR, and I don't know if it'll ever pass the House or get to the Senate for a vote and ultimately a signing by the president, but be aware that we now have state-by-state movement of these data privacy and protection laws, and so it's a very moving environment. So understand that Google is going to be paying attention to this very closely, and will ultimately update their software to match and accommodate those laws.
Okay. How do the private companies and sites you mentioned that handle them keep the less than honest users out of the community so you don't get a ton of junk or malicious people responding to FAQs, etc.?
Yeah, so many of them do them differently. Obviously the biggest issue is having real live humans, and most of them have mechanisms for being able to do that, primarily through the verification of an email, a live email account, and so on and so forth, so that they're not just people who are signing up and then posting gibberish. But then ultimately, you need to be monitoring your own communities. Very similar to the way that Facebook has now hired 10,000, 20,000, probably by the time we're done, they'll have 50 or 100,000 employees who are monitoring live the conversations that are happening, facilitated with some software. You need to be monitoring your communities to make sure that those people are positive, productive conversationalists as opposed to not, and then you block or ban those people who don't abide by the rules, but have good community guidelines and monitor those yourself. You're going to need to do that level of work beyond the technological components. There are some good ones built into the system, but you do need to monitor them.
Couple of questions that are along the same line, just a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw 2 of them out, and you can address them. How do you streamline all the options to be effective and engaged? And then secondly, that's a lot of tools available. Retail versus business services likely need a different approach. Any case studies, preferably with metrics, in a few common industries that you know about?
Sure. So HootSuite has provided a whole bunch of case studies on their website. So I recommend that you go to the hootsuite.com and check out their resources. You'll find their case studies. Facebook has also done a number of really good case studies. If you go to facebook.com/business or business.facebook.com, you'll find some really good case studies in those spaces. As far as choosing, as I said at the top, I ran through a whole bunch of tools because everybody's different. I probably disagree with the idea that retail needs to be different. Retail and service-based business and business to government, business to business, and all the various others, certainly you need to have a bespoke strategy. But the tools that I talked about, any of them can be used just with the right flavor, making sure that your audience is there and making sure that you're appropriately using them. What I want you to do, though, is really choose of the major categories that I talked about, choosing one tool for each of the listening, speaking, and connecting. You don't want to use all of those tools. You want to pick the ones that are going to best help you. That is, what are your skills, experience, and the content you want to share? Choose the tools that match up with the activities that you need: listening, speaking, connecting, and measuring. So you want to say, okay, what's the thing we need to solve the most in our business? Do we need this for marketing? Do we need this for customer service? Do we need this for some other piece? Well, okay, we really have an issue with customer service. Going back to the wiki thing, well, maybe we decide to implement the wiki as our speaking tool for handling the customer service issue. And so therefore we do some speaking and connecting work by implementing a wiki on the website. You choose a wiki, maybe your hosting provider, your web host already has a wiki that they have available for installation, and voila, you decide to you choose tools to solve business problems. You just don't choose the tools for the sake of having them. There's no reason to have the tool if you don't have a business problem to solve. But if you're trying to market the business and you need to be able to solve that problem, start to look at the tool in terms of, again, how do you best represent yourself and your business? Are you best in spoken word? Are you best in writing? Are you best on video, or some combination of that? Well, then choose the tools that are going to best represent you, and then handle most of the streamlining of moving from planning to production, and then ultimately measuring and making better business decisions.
All right, last question. What was the name of the program towards the end of the presentation that helps small business with design ideas that work?
Oh, Canva. So if you go to designschool.canva.com, it will take you to that place. And like I said, I'm going to give Tracy the list of the tools so that you all, because I skipped a couple of them. I knew that I wouldn't be able to cover them all, but I skipped a couple of them, which will also be in the list as well. Most of them are Instagram oriented because there's some really good Instagram stuff there. And we did do 2 webinars on Instagram. So if you haven't watched those, I highly recommend you go back and watch the 2 on Instagram, because they cover quite a number of tools for just Instagram specifically.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for participating. And Ray, the request was if you could include the podcasting information as well.
Absolutely. It'll be in there.
All right. Thank you all for participating today.